All right, well, welcome everybody. This is Michael Stern, Triple Diamond Executive with ASEA, calling in from Scottsdale, Arizona. Welcome to this Thursday evening's Team Reactive ASEA opportunity presentation. And tonight we're going to be talking about this amazing product, ASEA, younger, longer, faster, stronger, and a lot of great stuff to come. So the question is, why are you here? Why are you looking at this information? Why are you interested in ASEA? Maybe like a lot of folks, you're dealing with some of the challenges in the background in your lives. Maybe it's economic challenges, financial challenges. A lot of people are looking for alternative ways of bringing in income just to kind of make ends meet sometimes. They're looking for perhaps a plan B to add to their existing way that they're bringing in their income for their families. Maybe they're looking for travel, excitement, going around, seeing the world a little bit. Maybe like myself, my son's just getting ready to go off to college next year, and the reality of dealing with tuition and everything that goes along with the living expenses of your young ones heading off to college. But maybe you're just looking for a sense of freedom and having the opportunity to make decisions not based on price tags of things. It could be that you're here essentially because you or somebody that you deeply care about is looking to get healthier, to feel better, to feel a sense of wellness that maybe is missing in their lives. So, we've got a really interesting situation, and it's not just here in the U.S., it's also something that we're seeing worldwide. There's an amazing trend going on out there. Now, our medicine these days is absolutely fantastic. If somebody were to get into a serious accident, say a car accident or something, that could be airlifted to a hospital and experience breathtaking, miraculous medical technology that has the greatest chance of helping them with their trauma. And yet in the face of all that, we're seeing a very, very disconcerting rise in chronic troubling things that are occurring worse and worse and worse as time gets better, and our modern medicine doesn't seem to be providing answers. So the real question is, what is up with that? What is going on? Why is there such a huge increase in these kinds of health challenges that are assailing people? I was listening to a presentation by an amazing individual by the name of Dr. Daniel Pompa not too long ago, and this guy was an amazing individual, a picture of health, a competitive athlete, very professional, had an extremely successful business, and to his chagrin, he found himself, for no reason that he could understand, completely health compromised, and he lost almost everything: his health, his practice, his livelihood, his life almost, and barely found a way to get back from really troubling situations that he didn't even clearly understand. And after he recovered his health, he realized that if we don't get to fixing the cell, we will never get well, and it all goes back to the cell. And he said a couple of really important things here that I really want to kind of highlight. But let's just talk about the cells for a second, because our bodies at its basic level is comprised of literally tens of trillions of cells, an incredible amount of these amazing little universes on their own. At the end of the day, it's the quality of our cells that determine the quality of our health. So rather than really thinking about wanting to have a healthy heart, we really should be thinking about having healthy heart cells and healthy brain cells to have a healthy brain, etc. So thinking at the cellular level is really, really at the key. Now, Dr. Pompa was talking about the concept of cellular inflammation, and it triggered the recollection that I had that Time magazine back in February 2004 did a cover story on this concept of inflammation being the problem behind all kinds of challenges that people were having. And he talked about this epidemic of cellular inflammation as the cause and core of so many problems. And the way these different problems are showing up in our lives is really dependent on our own particular genetic susceptibilities. These different genetic weaknesses that we may have get activated. And that is, certain genes may get turned on based on what's going on in our lives. And the number one thing that activates these genes of susceptibility are the toxins that are in the environment, the various different kinds of things that are impacting us. But even more significantly is that these stressors that we're exposed to, and just kind of putting this in perspective, if you're just standing on a street and a bus were to be driving by, you're exposed to more toxic stressors in that one moment than our great-grandparents had in their entire lifetime. So we're getting a huge amount of toxic stressors that's happening and we're being exposed to. But this is the thing that's really kind of scary. And maybe scary also provides us insight, and that is our body doesn't really know the difference between toxic stressors, chemical stressors, physical stress, and emotional stress. And when I heard Dr. Pompa talking about this, it reminded me of a book back in 1970 by Alvin Toffler called Future Shock, where he was saying that, and remember this is 1970 when he wrote this, that people over the next 30 years, he was talking about the coming millennium, that people would be experiencing such a fast growth of change in environmental change in lifestyle conditionings, keeping up with information flow, that it would provide a huge amount of stress and people would have a hard time dealing with it. People laughed at him back in 1970, but here we are 44 years later, and it couldn't be any truer what he's saying. The pace of living life, what's going on around us in our own little worlds and the world at large, is hitting us at such a constant bombardment of information, change, and stress that we take it as the norm. We take it that this is just the way it is, and we don't realize the impact and the toll that it's playing in our lives. Now, one of the things that I have come across in research, and I come from a background of scientific research, a book by this incredible researcher, Dr. Naidu, that he wrote, Redox Life, talked about a concept called redox that I had been researching personally for about 10 years before I got introduced to this concept of ASEA some 4.5 years ago. And in this book, he talked about redox controlling the fate of every cell, whether it survives, whether it's able to change from one type of cell to another, like say from a stem cell to a cell that's in the heart or in the liver or something, but it has everything to do with the aging and the death of the cells, the survivability. It's everything. And it all has to do with the stressors in the environment of the cells. So redox potential, and I'm going to harp on this a little bit because we're going to be talking about how this amazing breakthrough we're talking about is able to have such a huge impact in our lives. But redox potential impacts our cellular receptors, and all of this affects the ability for our cells to communicate. And all these disruptors, all these stressors in our lives, emotional, psychological, chemical, disrupt and disorganize the ability of our cells to keep us healthy and to do what it needs to do for us to be able to move forward. So there is a solution. Being able to restore this redox potential is the greatest thing we can do to be able to restore our abilities of our cells to do what they're designed to do. So what does it mean? Well, it directly affects the receptors of the cell to communicate with its environment, and this environment affects directly the ability for cells to be healthy. Now, one of the things that I found to be really, really enlightening was most people think that we're kind of a victim of the genes that we're born with, but the truth is that no matter what the genes are that we have, these genetic factors only contribute some 10% to what people are actually experiencing. And again, that all goes back to how we're dealing with all these stressors in the environment that disrupts the communication. So it goes back to the cell membrane, its receptors, and it's the interface to what's called epigenetics, the ability for what we experience in our lives to actually control the expression of our genes. This is amazing information, and it should be something that was very relieving for us because we do not have to be the victim of our genes no matter what genes we may be able to find. Now you can go get tested for your genome and stuff, and now guess what? It doesn't really matter what those are. It really matters what our environment is, and that environment is our mental, our psychological, our emotional, our physical, the stressors in our cells. All that comprises the environment, and this will affect how these susceptibilities are expressed. So I want to talk to you about a concept tonight that I think is something indicative of what I've come to call transformational technology. Now, we hear so much about so many different things out there on the net, on TV, everywhere people are talking about the latest and the greatest breakthroughs. But I believe that there's a big difference between a discovery and a breakthrough and a transformational technology. And I want to give you a little bit of an example of what I call a transformational technology. Back after World War II in New Jersey, there's an American corporation called Bell Laboratories, and they succeeded in discovering and developing the transistor. Now, they thought that this discovery had such paramount importance that it would change the world. And they invited people to come in and to bid on the licensing rights for this, and they expected people to pour in from all over the world. Now, over in Japan, there was a fellow named Masaru Ibuka in a small little town over in Japan. He had heard about this transistor. He thought there was little likelihood that he would be able to acquire the licensing rights, but he decided to brave the probabilities on that. He hopped on a plane, which back then was no small ordeal. He came to this symposium they had, and to his amazement, he was the only one that showed up. He acquired the rights to the transistor. He went back to Japan and started the Sony Corporation and changed the world of electronics forever. Forever. So here's what's really crazy, okay? General Electric, a huge U.S. corporation, they were hot on the trail developing the transistor at the same time Bell Laboratories was, but they actually abandoned it because they were afraid it was going to interfere with their massive vacuum tube business. I mean, go figure. How is it possible that they missed this? And it's also a great question. You can look at how it's possible at the turn of the 20th century when the automobile was just being commercialized. How is it possible that the people that were right there at the very leading front of the transportation industry at the time, in the livery stables and the horse and buggy trade, how is it possible that these people missed something as transformational as the automobile? And the reason is that when a transformational technology arrives, it's truly the visionaries that recognize it, that can see it before it's coming. Everybody else has what's called paradigm blindness. They can't see something that's right in front of them that's going to impact it because they are so fixated on the mindset and the perceptions and the thoughts that they've got concerning what they're presently doing. Now, 4.5 years ago, I believe that I met an amazing visionary, a gentleman by the name of Vertus Norton, who was the head of strategy for Kraft General Food, a $35 billion company. This was an incredible individual, and I kind of accidentally met him because I was asked to meet with his son, actually, John Norton. A friend of mine introduced me to him. And I was so intrigued with what he had to say that I asked him to introduce me to his dad, Vertus. Now, Vertus had after he retired from Kraft General Food, he was doing some strategic planning, a strategy session for a small publicly traded biopharmaceutical company. And these guys were so impressed with him that they invited him to join their board of directors, of which he was really skeptical of, because they had developed a technology from salt and water that they were saying was able to do extraordinary things. And after he said, hey, it sounds like this is a little bit like snake oil, you're going to have to prove to me that this is real, he had a chance to talk to some significant researchers around the United States in the top of their research institutions, and he understood that this was something that was really amazing. But when he went to the first board meeting as a new member of the board of directors, he realized that this company economically was very crippled, and he was looking to see what would be possible in the future to be able to acquire this amazing technology once this company ended up being gobbled up by a larger publicly traded company, which is what happened. And once he acquired the technology, he enlisted the support of a medical and atomic physicist by the name of Dr. Gary Samuelson to help him figure out what was it that these guys had created that, frankly, none of the researchers he had talked to truly had any understanding or inkling of what it actually was and how it was doing the amazing things that they were seeing it do. And Dr. Gary Samuelson, in his research, discovered that what these guys had inadvertently stumbled on had to do with this emerging science called redox signaling. Now, redox, just so that you have a sense of it, is a word that generally is kind of not too often talked about in the biology and the biomedical circles. It really comes from electrochemistry, and it just means it's a contraction of two words: reduction and oxidation, and it's a idea of how atoms transfer electrons to other atoms and molecules in a process called redox. That's where redox comes from. But redox signaling as a body of science exploded into the scientific research arena back in 1998, when these three gentlemen essentially got awarded the Nobel Prize in medicine for discovering that a redox molecule, a molecule that had been overlooked for decades in biochemistry, was at the heart of a new area of cellular communications that is coined redox signaling. And since then, it has exploded into the world of science with international journals and dozens of graduate-level textbooks, universities opening up entire departments dedicated to redox science and biology. There is between 100 and 150 peer-reviewed scientific articles coming out on redox signaling all the time. People are talking about this in the scientific world in a massive way. So the question I had when I met with Virtus was, if this is so big, if this is so significant, how come we're not hearing about it? How come in my own research into the area of redox, I have not heard this concept of redox signaling? And what I discovered is the reason that we're not hearing about it is that the scientific community literally believes that it's impossible, physically, chemically, impossible to produce and stabilize these balanced redox molecules outside of our own bodies. That's why we're not hearing about it. That's why it's going on at a grassroots level academically all over the world. You can put into Google redox signaling and even put in there any kind of concern that you may have from a health point of view, and you'll see research going on all over the world, but nobody is talking about other than with this idea of ASEA, of how to do something about it. So redox signaling as a science is a true transformational breakthrough, a transformational breakthrough that will affect the outcome of things from generations to come globally. And the scientists and the doctors, the people that are researching it, believe it's going to bring about the greatest advancements in medical science of this century. So, what are these redox signaling molecules? Well, first off, they're produced inside our cells. They help our cells to communicate with each other, and they help our tissues to essentially heal themselves. Now, this is really an important concept because ASEA, this amazing product, is not doing the healing. It's not fixing our body. It's providing this amazing impact of allowing our cellular communication to occur by restoring this redox scenario around our cells that's allowing all these stressors that we're bombarded with to be able to not disrupt the cellular communications. And when our cells are able to communicate, they know what to do. They do what they're decided they always are able to do, and they keep us healthy. So let's talk about our cells again for a second. You know, we got these trillions and trillions of them, but they're very fragile and they get damaged every day by all kinds of things. By the sun, by exercise, wear and tear, the pollutants in the air, food, and the water, things that we consciously and unconsciously are exposed to, the stressors that we're talking about all around us affect our cells and damage of them. And literally on a daily basis, our body is having to repair, replace tens of billions of these cells. And if we happen to be health challenged or sore from exercise, then it's even more than tens of billions of cells on a daily level. And when we're young, we got this incredible ability to deal with it. But as we start getting older, after age 5, 6, 7 or so, the amount of these cells that need to be repaired is growing and growing and growing. And our body is just not producing enough of these redox signaling molecules to handle the demand. By the time we're age 70 or so, we've lost about 90% of the efficiency and the ability for our body to fix itself at the cellular level. So this is true for all living things, not just us as human beings, but animals, plants, anything that's living that has more than one cell. And so increasing this balance of redox signaling literally is the single the single most important thing that we can do for our health and for the health of the people that we care about. So let's talk a little bit about ASEA and this incredible breakthrough that happened after 17 years and millions of dollars of research that this company that had developed before Virtus had even gotten involved in it. They had multiple patents already. And then they had a product that was doing amazing things, but what happened was after Virtus brought in Dr. Samuelson and they really discovered what they had their hands on, through the research that was done, they accomplished what science said was impossible. And that was to be able to create and to stabilize these amazing redox signaling molecules in a bottle so that we could take advantage of it at our leisure, to get this, have it in a bottle on our shelf that we can take. Because in our body, when our body produces these molecules, they last literally for just moments. And this is an amazing breakthrough to be able to have it where we can take it on demand. And these are exactly the same molecules by the trillions that are produced in our bodies, literally in every cell of our body, every second of the day. How does ASEA do it? Well, they have this incredible patented three-step process where they start, just as our body starts with, from saline solution, which is salt and water. You know, if somebody was in an accident, when those paramedics come and they hook an IV up to you, what is that stuff they're putting into you? Well, it's predominantly saline solution because that's the fluid that's in all of our body. 85% of the fluid in our body essentially is saline solution. And so ASEA starts with that same material, saline solution, then they use a chemical redox process, electrochemical redox process, to break that saline down to its basic atomic structure, and then they restructure those atoms into these stabilized redox signaling molecules, the same ones that are produced in every cell of our body, and amazingly they're able to put it into a bottle that we can take advantage of. So here we are with literally the only balanced redox product that helps restore this ideal redox potential that restores our body's ability to communicate at the cellular level. It's an amazing, amazing product. So the question you're probably asking yourself if you're just looking at this is, okay, so what is this going to do for me? How am I going to benefit from this product you're talking about? Well, let's talk about the track record ASEA has had first off. There's like over 70 million times people have been taking ASEA over the years since it's been available. And as a product being out there, we've had less than a 1% return rate with literally over $150 million of product in the marketplace. And you know what? This product doesn't have the greatest taste when you first start taking it, because if your body's out of balance, it doesn't particularly taste that great. And yet even with that, even though we're asking people to try a product that's derived from saline solution that doesn't necessarily taste great, it's not necessarily the least expensive product in the market, and we've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Why is it that 99% of the people are using this product on a regular basis and reordering it on a regular basis? What is up with that? Well, people are having amazing experiences with it. They're having huge, huge benefits impacting the quality of their life, impacting the quality of life of the people they care about. I can tell you that myself, I got product, I started using it within my family, within friends around me, and literally within a month or so, we started seeing results coming in with people that were saying, what is this stuff? It's really doing some extraordinary things. And so I understood scientifically after meeting with Virtus that this was something extraordinary, but it wasn't until I started seeing the results with this that I realized that these guys had actually accomplished what literally I believed when I first got introduced to it was electrochemically impossible to do. Now, I just want to share with you some results of blood looking at red blood cells under a dark field microscope, and maybe some of you had a chance to look at this. This is actual live video footage of red blood cells under a dark field microscope, and if you recognize what we're looking at, these are red blood cells that are kind of all stacked together, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's a fairly common thing that happens when we're exposed to a lot of stress in our environment. And look what happens just 20 minutes after somebody consumed 4 ounces of ASEA. You can see now that all those blood cells are no longer stacked together. They're all individual, and that allows our body to be much more efficient in getting oxygen and nutrients throughout all the body, especially through the fine capillaries that happen as the vessels get down to the finest capillary level that barely can pass a single cell at a time through the vessels. So this is something that people that are in the know about this are so incredibly impressed about when they start looking at what ASEA is doing to the blood of people that are using it. Now, when Verta started working with this company and doing strategic planning, and his team acquired the rights to the product, and Gary developed the ability to stabilize the product, and they started putting it to the market, they had no idea that there were athletic benefits that happened as a result of people using this. And what's happened is that people started using the product and coming back saying, this is amazing, this is incredible. They were having huge impacts, particularly in their ability to recover from really intense exercise and competition, in their ability to enhance their endurance. And this opened up a really interesting avenue for ASEA to go into research relative to around the athletic aspects of what this product was able to do, because ASEA is not marketed as a pharmaceutical product. It was decided to take it onto the market as what we call a nutraceutical product, meaning a supplement, meaning a food supplement or a supplement that adds to what we are doing. It is not medicinal pharmaceutical in the way people think about the way things work. And so they decided to do some research around it because they thought that that would help people understand what this crazy saltwater-derived product is really all about. And they were told that the best guy around to do research in the athletic arena was Dr. David C. Neiman of the Human Performance Laboratory and the Vice President of the American College of Sports Medicine, who's incredibly accomplished, widely respected, and also a no-nonsense kind of guy that tells it like it is, who wouldn't even agree to consider doing any research around ASEA unless he could tell the truth about the results, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent. And Dr. Neiman's research facilities is over one of the most sophisticated nutritional and athletic research facilities in the world in North Carolina, called the North Carolina Research Campus, where David Murdoch Research Institute is. This is a place that's shared by 7 American universities, several U.S. corporations. It is an icon to scientific research, and it's important because of what Dr. Neiman needed to do to be able to really get his head around what ASEA actually was. Now, Dr. Neiman in his research discovered to his amazement that ASEA was doing things that he thought was something that should not be able to happen. It was providing the body's ability to access energy sources that generally are available to children, but in adults, something that is not generally available for them to use as an energy source unless they practice and they train themselves meticulously for long periods of time, and that is to allow the body to derive energy from free fatty acids as opposed to using the sugar stores and stock in the body that the body generally uses initially to keep the energy going on there. It likes to hold on to the fat stores in the body for times of famine, right? That's kind of how our bodies were developed, to have the fat in times of need. Well, with today's supermarkets, it's kind of unusual to experience famine, so the body doesn't always get to those fat stores. And what he found after his initial study with athletes, he decided to do a controlled study with mice. And he actually found that mice were able to run 29% longer compared to the controls, meaning that the ones that didn't use ASEA, 29% longer, which is amazing. He also found that people, even after their first time that they took ASEA, that it was producing this amazing release of free fatty acids and metabolites into their system just 30 minutes after the very first time that they took it, whether they experience it or not, just like the change in the blood that we looked at. And what Dr. Neiman likes to say is that mice just don't run 29% longer for nothing, right? He found that the depletion of what's called muscle glycogen, that's the sugar storage in the muscles that the muscles use for energy, was reduced by some 30%, meaning that the muscles were able to get energy from another energy source, and this basically was the evidence that he needed to understand that the body was able to use these free fatty acids. Now, this was important information to Dr. Neiman, and Dr. Neiman, like most academics, liked to be able to publish the research, but he had a dilemma because he could not publish the research and just say, all this happened by this product that's made from salt and water. You know, he couldn't just say that. Like a lot of people looking at the label, he would shake his head and say, you got to be kidding me. You're saying that if I drink this saline solution, it's going to do all this amazing stuff. But that's not good enough for science. He needed to prove what we've been saying, that we actually have a product that contains stabilized redox signaling molecules. And to do that, he had to rely on an incredible piece of equipment at this research facility, a piece of equipment that in of itself cost about $500 million. And he discovered in this research unequivocally, scientifically, irrefutably, that ASEA, number one, is not saline solution, and number two, that miraculously, in his opinion and his scientific team, that we've been able to stabilize these fleeting redox signaling molecules somehow in this product. So we've done something that has never happened before in history. Instead of people having to go through this decline of their cellular efficiency as they get older as a result of not having enough of these redox signaling molecules, with this incredible product, we're able to turn back the clock, so to speak, and allow our cells the ability to start communicating again, that allows our cells to start fixing themselves in a way that happens only when people are a lot younger. So we've got something really amazing, a true transformational breakthrough. And when a transformational breakthrough, it really means massive opportunity for the ones that see it. You know, a lot of money has been made over the last 3 decades in the nutritional area. Vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, which have gotten so pervasive it's almost laughable. I mean, here we're talking about a soda pop that has cherry juice in it, and they're marketing it as an antioxidant. Give me a break. You know, cherry 7-Up as a health product. But there's all kinds of things on the market, exotic juices from around the world, and people made a lot of money with it over the last 30 years. But we're talking about being able to harness a transformational technology, one that's going to be massive in years to come, and we're the only game in town, the only people in the world that have been able to produce and stabilize these incredible molecules. And how, as an entrepreneur, does it feel? Do you want to be at the end of an era, the end of a wave, or to be there at the beginning of a wave, something that's going to carry us for generations to come? So I just want to talk for a minute about the business model that we have with ASEA and why this is so incredible, why this is such a successful business model. Well, again, let's talk about the track record. Okay, the company, debt-free within the first year of business, over 150,000 customers worldwide. We're operating in some 19 countries, over 150 million in sales. Already created multiple people that have become millionaires in the business. It really is something that's working. But we got to think about it. The bulk of people out there still haven't been able to figure out how to get away from where they are in their lives into something that is going to free up their time, their energy, and their resources, and take advantage of harnessing their energies in a way that's going to give them the financial freedom, the financial ability that many people are only dreaming about. Okay? And as Albert Einstein said, we just can't solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. So I want to kind of put this in some historical perspective for a lot of people in terms of their mindset, their perspective. Remember the concept of you got to be a visionary to recognize a transformational breakthrough. Well, most people are essentially used to what we like to call as the 40-40-40 plan. Let me kind of put this in perspective, the 40-40-40 plan. And that is, as you go to school, you get a good education, you get a good job, you work your way through the ladder, and then you retire, after 40 years of working on 40% really of what it is that you were trying to live on for 40 years. And really, the operative thing is how many people are really planning this, okay? But this is what we're trained to do. This is what our parents tell us what to do, our teachers tell us what to do, our bosses tell us what to do. But there's an alternative, and that is being in a home-based business where instead of having to claw your way to the top of a corporate structure, we're the CEO of our own business, and we're helping other people be the CEO of their businesses. And as a result of that, we're helping everybody in a win-win scenario and developing, rather than a 40-year plan of something that most people are having a hard time surviving on after 40 years, we're talking about developing a 3 to 5 year plan to financial dignity, whatever that may mean for you. So ASEA is an incredible business, simple, affordable, and most importantly, duplicatable. So step by step, how do you do it? Well, first, in the U.S., it's $40 to become an ASEA associate. That gives you a startup kit, getting started, all the materials, the websites, a marketing site at teamasea.com, their virtual office, and then you access the ability to start developing your business by getting an initial product order. ASEA basically has a wholesale price of $120. That's 4 32-ounce bottles of ASEA, and it wholesales for $120. You could get 1 or 2 cases to get started with, or you could access a 4-case order at the time of enrollment also at a significant discount, or an 8-case order at the same kind of discount, and take advantage of that. It's the best value, and again, it's available only at the time of enrollment. So think about that. Talk to the people that are inviting you to this seminar right now so you can really get a sense of that. And that's basically the first step. And then we encourage you to take advantage of duplication processes here. And we have something that we've been working with that we're very excited about that we call the 3-minute peak system. It's a great duplication system. It provides on-demand trainings, a prospect manager, the whole duplication process, an amazing software package to really track your tax, your savings that you're making, your tax issues that you're doing during the course of building your business. One thing that most people don't understand, particularly if they're used to working for a company for somebody else, is that when you're self-employed, there are massive benefits that you can derive from being in business for yourself. But guess what? You have to be able to document them. And this is the best software that we've seen out there for being able to do this in a very, very simple way. And it is built in to this amazing duplication system. And then essentially starting to set daily objectives to go about building your business strategy for what you individually are looking to derive out of your ASEA business. Whether you're looking to expose people on a part-time basis, or whether you're looking to really develop this into more of a full-time career, you're talking about increasing simply what you're doing, the velocity of what you're doing, the number of exposures of people. You start doing this on a larger way, you're going to start talking about the opportunity to develop big-time income. Now, is this going to happen overnight like winning the lottery? No way. That's not what we're talking about, a 3 to 5 year plan to financial independence. So for around $5 per day, you can have a turnkey business, product manufacturing, shipping, receiving, everything that you need to do. If you've ever been in your own business, you know that it will cost you typically thousands, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get your business up and running before you make your first dollar. And then you got to deal with employees. You got to deal with all kinds of things. You got to deal with putting your systems together. You're rarely going to have international research. You're not going to have the resources of a Fortune 500 team at your side. We're talking about simply acquiring 1 case of product of ASEA for yourself to use for your own benefit a month in the process of doing this. That's a crazy way of thinking about running a business for $5 a day. I just wanted to give you some insight on really what that represents, what it's doing for you. And then you're going to get all this back to you if you document all this, because you're in your own business and you're keeping track of all these costs, because these are legitimate tax deductions when you are in a business with an intent to earn a profit, and you document these things. So phenomenal things. Let's talk about the duplication model real quickly. I'm getting towards the tail end of this. I want to kind of blaze through this a little bit. I want to talk about something we call our AAA bonus and put it in perspective here. So let's just use this as an example. Let's say you're Dan here. You're just getting started in ASEA. You get on this auto shipment of 1 case of ASEA a month, and you go out there and you start doing these exposures, and you help 4 individuals see what you saw and do exactly what you did, where they get enrolled in ASEA at 1, 2, 4, 8 cases and get on a 1 case auto shipment. And after you have 4 people that you personally enrolled do that, then you become what we call L1 qualified in this AAA program, and that earns you $100 a month. And guess what? That goes a long ways to cover the cost of your own product. Okay, in essence, you just gotten your product practically for free. And when you look at some of the other commissions involved in this model, and you'll see that it really comes up to basically covering the cost of your business. But it doesn't stop for there. Then in this duplication process, now you just help the 4 people that you do, 2 of the 4 people you do essentially do exactly the same thing. Say in this case it's Tina and Debbie, that they go out there and they see and do what you did, and they help 4 individuals become associates. They get on auto shipment. They get their own $100 a month commission now. And guess what? By you doing that, you just added another $250 to what you're doing. So now you're earning $350 just from this one AAA commission process. And you're now, with everything else involved, you're now making yourself an extra $500 a month. And I know for a lot of people that is a huge difference in the lifestyles of themselves and their families. That may mean having a little bit of perks that they have during the course of the month, maybe having their families spend a little bit more time of, going out and celebrating, or maybe that's a car payment, or maybe that keeps your house from being under duress as a result of some economic strategy or challenges that people may be exposed to. But that makes a huge difference in a lot of lives. But it doesn't stop there. Now if Debbie and Tina just go to do the same thing towards getting their own $500 a month by helping 2 of their individuals get their own $100 a month income from just helping 4 people get on auto ship, do the same thing. Guess what? Now you just added another $400 to your AAA bonus. And with the other commissions involved, that takes you to over $1,000 a month. We like to talk about that as creating thousandaires. And by helping individuals become thousandaires, that helps people become millionaires by building a business of duplication. So let's just kind of real briefly look at that. Here's Dan. He's building his team by doing this ASEA business as he's setting people up in this AAA program. They're also becoming team members in his business in what we call the team side of the business. And by helping his 4 people do that, he's also going to be accessing the other commissions involved in it, and that's how he's hitting that $120. And by duplicating that whole process, you've now added multiple people on your team, and you start having the ability to not only make an income as a result of that, but also match the amount of money people are earning on that, and it adds more and more money to what you're doing, multiple generation. I know there's a lot there. I just wanted to kind of give you a visual on it, but there's a lot to this amazing ASEA compensation plan that you can take advantage of as you're duplicating these very simple actions of exposing people and moving people through this AAA process. And guess what? You're getting paid weekly on most of this except for the AAA, and it's accessing it and building a part-time to a full-time to a big-time income as a result of doing it. So what's the timing like when you're looking at a business opportunity? Well, timing couldn't be better right now for ASEA. We're talking literally for the first time in the history of product development and distribution that a transformational breakthrough is entering the marketplace through a network marketing company. If you look at all the other network marketing companies, they're simply trying to carve market share from existing markets that are out there. And you look at the timing in a network marketing type of growth pattern, you go through a foundation concentration stage, you hit momentum stability, but because we're transformational technology, we believe that that momentum stage is just going to go like the ever-ready bunny. and because we're talking about something that's going to affect the population around in a way that's never been done before. Critical mass happens at concentration. Once you hit momentum stage, this thing takes on a world of its own. And where are we at right now? Well, with it, when you want to, in network marketing, you want to kind of get in that window, kind of a year window around that critical mass. Well, guess what? With the ASEA, we're right around that point right now. So you are now, if you're looking at this webinar in the right place at the right time, even this is the first time you're looking at ASEA, to get in front of a wave of opportunity that can affect your family for generations to come. So here we are at decision point. You can choose to do nothing about it. You can just say, well, I don't quite get it, and tomorrow you just focus on the next information, the next, amount of information we're inundated with, and do absolutely nothing about it. Or you could choose to avail yourself of this amazing technology that we shared and become a customer of the product. Or you could say, hey, guess what? I get it. I want to start developing a home-based business around this, and I want to become an associate with ASEA. Michael Jordan, one of the great athletes in the States, said, I can accept failure. Everybody fails at something. But what I can't accept is not even trying. So, people get knocked down all the time. Failure is just a way of life. I just finished reading a book that talks about failing your way to success. The problem with most people is they just hit a bump in the road in whatever it is they're doing in life, and they basically fold their tent and they go away. But all you need to do is just go on and on and on and do whatever it takes to essentially fail your way to success, and you cannot fail in life. As Wayne Gretzky says, you miss 100% of the shots that you'd never take. And most people are afraid to take the first shot because they're afraid it's not going to go into the goal. So things may come to those who wait, but as Abraham Lincoln said, but only the things left by those who hustle. I thought that was pretty funny. So I encourage you to take advantage of this. Take advantage of this ASEA opportunity. Think about who you know that needs to know about ASEA, whether we're talking about this product or whether we're talking about this amazing opportunity, because at the end of the day, there's nothing better than making a living while making a difference in others' lives. And I've never seen anything like ASEA in its ability to do that. So get back to the people that invited you here for this presentation and let them know whether you're one of those three decisions where, in terms of being not interested or wanting to use the product, or whether you want to avail yourself of this amazing opportunity. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on this webinar tonight, and have a fantastic evening.